Hello everyone. My name is Mayank Kushwa and I'm from ABS Engineering College, Ghaziabad. In this video lecture series on refrigeration and air conditioning, I welcome you all. And in the previous lectures, we have discussed about air conditioning systems. We have discussed about refrigeration system. And in this one particular video, we are going to talk about the construction and working of a domestic refrigerator. Domestic refrigerator, I think, is a pretty common device which every household has, and it is a part of our day-to-day life now. So let us start talking about the same. Domestic refrigerator, as we already know and have discussed, works on a refrigeration system, which we have discussed in previous lecture, and it is called vapor compression refrigeration system. Okay. So to understand this thing, let me just draw a line diagram of the same. So the common schematic line diagram of domestic refrigerator will include the common devices which we have already discussed earlier. So this is a very basic, very schematic type of diagram which can be used for explaining the construction and working of a domestic refrigerator. The name of these components are the evaporator, accumulator, compressor, condenser, receiver, dryer, capillary tube. The direction of the flow is in this direction. So, so this is a very basic, very common type of diagram which can be used to explain VCRA system as well as domestic refrigerator. So in the previous lecture, we have also discussed that some of the most basic type of or common refrigerants that are generally used are R134A or R32. If we want to write down, the chemical formula is C2H2F4 and this is CH2F2. At present time, if you carefully observe, then this is the most widely used refrigerant, R32. So in this video lecture, we are going to discuss about the construction and working of the same. What is the function of all these components and why do we use them? So let us try to understand this one by one. So first, evaporator. Sorry. Evaporator is that device which enables the absorption of heat. The device which enables the refrigerant to absorb heat. Usually, freezer section, freezer section of refrigerator work as evaporate. The next one is accumulator. You see, it is possible that after the evaporation process, some of the fluid liquid particles of the refrigerant remains at this location. It is also possible, right? Most of the time this is not possible, but suppose in case where the very low temperature is to be maintained, some of the liquid particles may remain even after the evaporation process is completed. But you see, for the compression per process, we need only dry vapor here because we know that for practical purposes, we assume liquid particles to be incompressible. So that compression process can be done perfectly, we require dry vapor. That simply means if there is any liquid particle which is present at this location, then it needs to be filtered out before the refrigerant enters into the compressor. That purpose is done by accumulator. So what does an accumulator do? It filters out the liquid particles present in the refrigerant coming out of evaporate. And thus, dry vapor of refrigerant is supplied to the compressor. So the compressor work purpose of the compressor is just to increase the pressure and temperature of the refrigerant well above the surrounding level so that heat can be rejected to the surrounding. So it is used to increase the pressure and temperature of refrigerant much above the surrounding conditions. The next, condenser, which is pretty much obvious, used to reject heat, to the environment or surrounding. So I'm sure you must have observed a net of pipe and thin rods behind the refrigerator. That part is called the condenser. And you must have also seen a kind of black box at the back side of your refrigerator. That is compressor. Right. The other devices that we are using here is receiver. which is nothing but a storage tank, which works as a storage tank of refrigerant. Dryer works as a filter device. Of refrigerant. And lastly, capillary tube is used as an expansion device. The function of expansion device has been discussed in VCRS system. So the purpose is to lower down the pressure and temperature of refrigerant so that it can be utilized for further stuff. Okay, so this is the function of each and every component. To understand this, let us discuss the cooling cycle. So what happens? A liquid refrigerant, which is at low pressure, low temperature, enters into the evaporator, where it absorbs sensible as well as latent heat of evaporation from the objects to be cooled down. So suppose in your refrigerator, you must have water bottles, you might have milk, you might have vegetables, you might have fruits. All these things needs to be cooled down. And to cool down, they need to reject heat, right? That heat which is rejected by the edible items present in the cooling space, heat that heat is absorbed by the refrigerant in this device, evaporator, which is your freezer section. In that process, the refrigerant gets evaporated and it gets converted into liquid and vapor. This liquid and vapor gets converted into dry vapor by absorbing liquid particles here. When this liquid dry vapor gets compressed in compressor, it gets converted into high pressure, high temperature, superheated vapor. Heated vapor, right? Because the compression process simply increases the pressure and temperature. And we are doing this on purpose so that the temperature and pressure can be increased much above the surrounding level here so that the heat can easily be transferred to the surrounding. So now when this refrigerant enters into this condenser here, then what happens? It rejects its heat to the surrounding. So this heat rejection process takes place here. And as this refrigerant rejects its heat to the surrounding, it gets cooled down. And its pressure and temperature are reduced. So most of the time, liquid plus vapor form is received here, and sometimes only liquid particles can also be achieved or obtained if the cooling process is sufficient enough. Now, this liquid plus vapor refrigerant, which has high pressure and low temperature, gets converted into low pressure, low temperature in this capillary tube, which is nothing but a expansion device. So, by reducing its pressure and temperature to this level, pre-evaporator level, it can be further utilized for next cooling purpose, right? In this way, the entire cooling takes place in a refrigerator. Okay. Thank you very much. In the next lecture, which is the last of this series, we will be talking about the construction and working of a window air conditioner also. Thank you.